I was thinking about finishing school and probably taking a job at some bank or something. I wasn't thinking professional football. I was thinking like, okay, well, this is fun in Vegas with a bunch of other guys, and they were getting their names called. We got another day there. The next morning, the phone rings. It's Coach Parcells. Hey, I just drafted you. I'm like,
The Dissection with Erin Mulligan. Today, I'm so honored and excited to be speaking with Super Bowl champion, sports commentator, philanthropist, commercial real estate broker, and last but not least, former New York Giant Howard Cross. Howard, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you?
I'm doing great, Aaron. Aaron, yourself?
Good, I'm doing well. How has your quarantine been going?
It's been very well. My kids have been sporadically home. My daughter's been with me since her spring break. My son was here for maybe 2 weeks. He went back to school. He's a football player, so he's kind of had to get back. But it's been very well so far.
Good, good. All right, so just starting from the beginning, you grew up in Alabama. What was that like? What was your upbringing like?
I grew up on a farm in Alabama. My family did roughly 400 plus acres of land farming soybeans, corn. We had animals, just like every other household in the South. We worked hard. I was always busy. I didn't have a lot of downtime. I thought that was kind of funny as I watch kids today that they don't have anything to do. So it taught you to be that people around you can help you and take care of you, and you need to help and take care of people. We really looked in on the elderly and cut everybody's grass and make sure everybody was okay. It was a good life.
Great. I heard that you wanted to be an astronaut when you were younger. Was it your height that kind of made you lean more towards football?
Just the whole ideal of trying to be an astronaut, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Huntsville is where the space camp is, the Space and Rocket Center is there. There are a lot of engineering and aerospace companies in Huntsville. It's a very smart town. So in my mind, I'm like, the natural progression would be for me to be an astronaut, just to be great. I had good grades. I was doing well in school, and I went from doing well in school to having a growth spurt, and a guy telling me that, yeah, you will not be fitting in any cockpit at that height. So it was pretty funny.
That's funny. So you went, obviously in high school. As far as college goes, did you get a lot of offers, and how did you choose to go to Alabama?
I got offers from basically almost every school in the nation to play football, to play basketball, to run track. I got a bunch of academic offers. So it was just different way back then. There was no Google, there was no computers for us to sit around and look up everything. If someone called you, they called your house phone that was connected to the wall. It was a house line. There was no cell phone. So the communication was very interesting because your parents knew when someone called. Your parents were usually home when someone called, and they called definitely at the same time every night. So your parents were usually there because it's right around dinner time. You spoke to the coach on the phone, and you kind of like try to figure out which would be your best direction. I like schools like UCLA. I liked a lot of the SEC schools. I like most of the schools that were in warm weather. I didn't know anything about snow or anything like that, so I was trying to avoid going anywhere where I thought there might be snow or if I had to play in snow.
Did you ever consider playing pro basketball or going to track?
Yeah, I was a decent basketball player. I probably wasn't as good as I thought I was, but I was a really good basketball player. When schools were recruiting me, they didn't want me to sign a football scholarship. They said, why don't you just wait a little bit longer? Some schools like Penn State offered me a scholarship in both. It was just back then, I was trying to make the quick decision because something was right in front of me. Football scholarships, and you had to make a commitment to sign. I think February the 2nd,
Mm,
Tuesday or Wednesday in February, and basketball was like later in the spring. So I was like, I can get this out of the way. I can move on with my life. I can get ready to go. So I went on a few official visits, and Alabama seemed to be like the greatest place, and had a good coach, Coach Perkins, who had just came down from the Giants. I enjoyed him. He was very funny. He had a very cool recruiting trick that made things kind of made my dad lean towards him as well. So it was kind of funny.
great. What was your time at Alabama like? How would you describe it?
I would describe it as four of my best years of life being in college. A lot of great friends made, a lot of cool experiences, some sad experiences, but it was a lot of fun getting to know people. It's where you kind of grow up, and you for young men, I think from that age, from 17 to 20, 21, is where you start to find out who you are and the personality you're going to have, the people you're going to be around. You kind of you mold yourself. You come up with your parents. For everyone who's fortunate to have parents, and you kind of like live the way that they want you to live for 17, 18 years. They're molding you. Then you go off to college, and all of a sudden you're around your peers, and you're trying to find your space in the pecking order. You're trying to figure out who's right, who's wrong. You start to develop your opinion of what you think is right and wrong, and you start to grow closer to guys. And hopefully, because of your education, you learn to respect people who have different opinions from you.
Right. Do you have a favorite memory from there?
From Alabama, favorite memory. So many. Um, oh my gosh. I think probably the favorite memory, we played at LSU one year, and they had two really good outside linebackers, and they were asking us what we were going to do, and what plays to run. I'm like, just run the ball right at the linebackers, and the coach is like, "What? Just run it right at them. I'll block them. It'll be okay." And they all start laughing. I'm like, "I'm not joking." So in the game, we ran the ball directly at them the entire game. They couldn't stop us, and it was like very funny after the game. Someone asked me, "It's like, did you actually tell them that you were coming, that you were running the ball right at them?" I told them during the game, "So we're coming right at you, so just be prepared." It was like, so that was kind of a cool game and a lot of fun.
Awesome. So you were drafted in the 1989 draft by the New York Giants. What was your
hmm
draft experience like?
It was kind of casual. I think I wasn't really thinking about going pro. I was thinking about finishing school and probably taking a job at some bank or something. I wasn't thinking professional football. I was thinking like, okay, well, this is fun. And I went out with my buddy Derek Thomas, who was like my roommate at the time, and he goes, "Let's go to Vegas for the draft." I'm like, so we were in Vegas with a bunch of other guys, and they were getting their names called. Us before players were really, I guess, at New York in the draft room, so to speak. So we were hanging out, laughing. He got drafted in the first day on like the first five picks. He's drafted. I'm hanging out with him. We got another day there. The next morning, the phone rings. It's Coach Parcells. "Hey, I just drafted you." I'm like, "Okay, that's great, cool." I'm like, "I got drafted. I got to go play football." It was kind of funny.
Awesome. As a rookie with the Giants, did you have any rookie duties like carrying everyone's pads or anything like
No, we did the biggest thing we had to do, I think was funny, was buy donuts on Saturday.
that?
We did
Okay.
that a lot. I think that was like the funniest thing they had to do. We didn't do that much.
Yeah.
Uh, it was I guess it was too taxing
Mhm.
for us. It was a lot to learn. We made a team, and then there was like they give you these huge, huge playbooks, and there was so much information in them. And then when it was time for the season to start, it was so precise to know all the details. The scouting reports were like books you had to read on each player, and it was crazy. So we spent a lot of time studying.
Okay. So you played a total of 207 games in your career, and you spent your entire career with the Giants, which is amazing. How can
hmm
you describe your entire career?
It started out as a young guy having a lot of fun, being goofy and silly, running around the field. We got very fortunate, won a Super Bowl in the second season. And then I went through some highs and lows of learning to play with a team that wasn't that good, learning to play with a team that was really good, learning to play with a team that really wasn't good, to always be prepared to understand that you're playing for balls. It's a huge privilege. It's not a right, because every year they would draft someone or they would bring someone in to replace you. So you're always in competition. So the privilege of the game is awesome, but the right doesn't exist. You have to earn your right to play every day, and it kind of helps you in life understanding that nothing's really given to you. You really have to earn it.
So you did play in two Super Bowls, won one, lost one. First of all, the 1991 Super Bowl. It was
hmm
10 days after the U.S. went to war. Whitney Houston sang the national anthem. It was the New York Giants and the Buffalo Bills. Can you tell me what that entire experience was like?
Well, first off, a lot of red, white, and blue in the stadium with both team colors. Um, it's so commonplace now with Afghanistan, Iraq, and us always seemingly in some skirmish somewhere, and we have 24 hours news cycles, so we always know what's going on, and we can see who's fighting. Back then, you didn't really know that much about what was going on past your borders, except for you read the New York Times and see what's going on. There was no 24-hour news cycle, or it was just becoming like CNN was just really trying to get his boots on the ground. And when it comes up that all of a sudden we're going to go to war, it was overwhelming. It was you know, from everything, the only thing that we knew of is like for me would have been the Vietnam War. I'm like, are they going to start drafting guys, or what's going to happen? And it became this really weird moment trying to figure out which direction the population of America was going, not so much the military. We knew the military could handle themselves and do whatever they needed to do, but what were we going to do? And were we going to be called into action? And we didn't, a lot of us didn't know. And people were like laughing, like, you guys are not going to, the military is so big. It's so, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't understand. I had a lot of friends and family that when they left high school, they went into the military. So I was like worried about them. And it was just a big moment. And also the thing that I didn't know a lot about, and then had really never even heard the word before in this context was terrorism. And they were talking about blowing up stadiums and blowing up the Super Bowl stadium, and it was high security, much higher security than I'd ever seen. I'd never seen guys walking around with M16s just walking the streets, and there were guys walking around in our hotels with M16s and body armor on, walking and watching and guarding the hotel. And I was like, this is very serious. So when Whitney Houston gets up and sings the national anthem and the entire stadium is crying, it's a moving, incredible moment.
Right. Do you think, the fact that the war had just started and all these things are going through everyone's minds, was it a little harder to concentrate on the game? Or what was going through your mind?
No, once the game started, you were concentrating on the game. I think more of when I tell people that I think our Super Bowl started the real Super Bowl era because more eyes were watching the game, more eyes, more press was around that week because of the turmoil that was happening elsewhere in the world. It made it a bigger moment. It was a big moment to begin with because you're in the Super Bowl, but because all this extra stuff was going on, it made it even a bigger moment. I think that was probably the overwhelming factor for me was that holy smokes, everybody in the world is kind of watching right now. It's not just, oh well, Super Bowl's on. I can remember watching the Super Bowl in college. It was kind of like, we'll just check out a couple quarters. All right, let's go see something. Now it's a must-see event. It's almost a holiday in some countries.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not a player, but I do understand losing a Super Bowl is probably one of the toughest experiences. But what is it really like to, be someone who has won one and also lost one?
I think it's a good experience in both situations. I think if you're able to win your division and actually get there, I think that's a huge accomplishment. And I don't think enough people realize that there are so many players that go through the league and never get an opportunity to play in the playoffs, nevertheless a Super Bowl. So for them to get to a Super Bowl and give their best effort, it's a great accomplishment. It's sad when you lose, but it's a great accomplishment to get that far and be able to have the opportunity to win a Super Bowl. I think the 2000 team or the 2001 team, I think they did a great job. I think winning against the Vikings in the stadium. It was crazy. Then actually going to the game, everything was so exciting. Now, the Super Bowl itself was a letdown, but just all the accomplishments along the way were great. And it was like probably one of the loudest stadiums I'd ever heard at Giant Stadium that after that Vikings game.
Wow. So you finished your career with 201 receptions, 2,194 yards, and 17 touchdowns. Did you ever play a different position or ever consider playing a different position?
I thought that I was such a big guy. Tight ends we were the last group of the really big tight ends. We could run, catch, but we were big guys, and we were called to block. And we had a lot of guys that are Hall of Famers, like Reggie White, Bruce Smith, Charles Haley, uh, Big Green himself. We were had to like be in one-on-one situations with these guys a lot, and being in a one-on-one situation with an all-pro Hall of Fame guy taught us to be such effective blockers. I thought that maybe I could play tackle, and everybody kind of laughed. I'm like, well, if I'm blocking Reggie White, if I have to block Reggie White, why wouldn't I be able to play tackle? And they're like, we should think about that. And like some guys transition from tight end to tackle, but they usually do it in college. They don't usually do it in the pros.
Hmm. So, now you're a sideline reporter and analyst with the Giants. Did you
Hmm.
always want to or ever plan on going into broadcasting?
No, I thought that uh, the, the the reason how I got there was I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of auctions. I do some stand up when I'm doing it. I try to have as much fun and be as public as possible. I think someone heard me speaking or doing one of the auctions one time and immediately said, "Take my card. You'd be great on TV." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, great, thank you. See you around. That's cool." And then another agent stopped me and gave me a card and says, "Listen, you should really consider being on TV." I'm like, "Okay, let's try it." So I wound up going, I believe, to the Yes Network, and I did some CBS sports stuff for a while. I did when it was Cold Pizza. Now it's Get Up, but I was doing Cold Pizza when the Mike and Mike show, before the Mike and Mike show was the Mike and Mike show. I was on TV doing Cold Pizza with ESPN. So I did a lot of stuff right off the bat. Wound up with the Giants because it was more of I would like to say it's more of a scheduled. I can count and depend on when it is, the timing of it. I don't have to worry about it. ESPN is you're on call like a doctor that could call you at any moment, and you don't know as much about when you're going to show up. So that was like, I got stuff I have to do. Like, why do I have to be on call? Like, and I couldn't get over that moment. And almost all the guys that I started ESPN with aren't there anymore. So that's the other thing to think about. The Giants are very loyal, and they
Right.
like the people they have, and if you do a good job, they keep you around forever.
Wow. Do you have, a best memory or interview from broadcasting?
Best interview from broadcasting, huh? Like from my end, or interviewing someone, or someone interviewing me.
From your end.
Interviews. I think sitting down and talking to some of the old players like Roosevelt Brown. I got a chance to talk to him a couple times. Coach Parcells and Coach Belichick. I would interview them. I interviewed Belichick when I was working at the Yes Network. It was very funny to hear him respond to everyone. And then when I said, "Hey, Coach Howard Cross," he said, "Hey, Howard, how you doing? What's going on, man?" It was just funny to see his reaction to me because we know each other so well. It's just funny that the personality that he is on TV in these interviews. That's really not his personality. He's really a super nice guy.
Interesting.
Mhm.
So you're also a real estate broker. How did you get into real estate?
Commercial brokerage. I guess because of the broadcasting and people seeing me around a lot. I do. You said philanthropy. I do a lot of charity work and charity events. A lot of golf and uh, dinners and galas, and you're up speaking, you're emceeing. Someone saw that and said that this guy is plugged into a lot of CEOs, COOs of a lot of big companies. Maybe it would be a good idea to bring him on and teach him real estate so he could have the relationship with some of these companies and help them if that's what he wants to do. So after years of them recruiting me, I finally said yes. I started out in Jersey at CB Richard Ellis, did it for a couple of years. I wound up going into the city to work for what became Colliers International. I tried to go from Colliers to do a small firm that did only tenant rep, that's representing the people who take the space. And that lasted like a pretty good while, like 5 or 6 years, and I wound up saying like I'd rather go back to do both sides of the table, and I need a very strong company name to be with. So I decided to go with Cushman and Wakefield, one of the biggest firms, one of the oldest firms in real estate, and I got to work with the global chairman, so that
Right.
helps too.
Awesome. So you've also spent a lot of your time trying to ensure that children stay in school. Why is that cause so important to you? How did you get into that?
I think that a lot of the stuff that we see today and a lot of the arguments we have and we hear today It starts with education and everyone having the right for education. I think that um, privately and publicly, I don't think people realize that not everybody's going to go to college. It's a given. I don't think that everyone wants to go to college. I think there's enough people who want to do something else, whether it's some trade or anything or own their own business. There's a lot to do. But the kids who want to go to college, they have to have the opportunity and the equal footing to get started. And I think there's ways to do that to help kids, get the leg up. If you get an education, a college education, you're gonna make way more money in your lifetime than if you don't have a college education.
Right.
It's just a fact. So why not give everybody the same opportunity to get educated going from elementary, preschool, all the way through high school to college. If I live in Patterson, I shouldn't be worried that I don't have an internet connection.
Hmm.
If I'm not unable to get to the information, I can't learn the information. If I can't learn the information, the teachers can't teach me the information. It's a chain of events that is pretty much solvable, but people just got to be willing to say, all right, let's get this done.
Right.